Hello boys and girls, and welcome to Critical English for grade 7 to 8. Hello everyone, how are we doing?
Good.
Good. Welcome Miss Taisha, is it? She's joining us for the first time. Welcome to our language class. So today we are going to be doing something very interesting. Sometimes a lot of us don't like to do it, but we're going to begin by playing a game titled Hangman. Do we know how to play this? Yeah, so you get a chance to call a letter, and then if it's correct, I add it here. If not, I string you up here. All right, so let's try to get some clues in. It is something that a lot of people don't like. So start, let's go.
R.
Just give me letters. R,
Miss I.
I, A, good.
N.
N. What are we looking at today?
Reading.
Reading. So we're looking at reading, and we are going to look at why it's essential and it's important to read. Do we like reading? Akila? Aliyah. Akila is not here today. Yes. Do you like reading?
Yes.
Why?
I find it interesting.
You find it interesting. What about you, Taisha?
Miss sometimes.
Sometimes, depending on probably what you're reading. Yeah. And what about you, Shamar?
I read,
You
Like
read.
mostly for instructions on problem solving.
Especially when we're doing exam, reading is very important, reading our instruction. And we probably would have heard that over and over. So many times we're writing exam, they say, read instructions carefully. Yes?
Yes.
Good. So we're going to look at, so nobody got hung today. So we can take this off because we're looking at reading. But there are different types of reading. And we can try to deduce what the types of reading are, specifically 3, and then we're looking at 1. So if, Taisha said that she likes to read sometimes, and we probably, I'm assuming that some of those times is because you're reading for pleasure, yes?
Yes.
Reading for pleasure. So that type of reading, we call that recreational or leisure reading. And sometimes it's a lot of us, we engage in that type of reading where we're reading for our own benefit. We may not necessarily be reading to go beyond what the writer is saying. We just read and we enjoy the book and we move on. Yes? That type of reading is called leisure or recreational reading. And then, like Shamar said, there are times where we're reading to get information. Yes? Because when we read our instruction, we're reading to see what? What is required of us, right? What we have to do. So we're looking for information so that we can answer our question. And that type of reading is called informative reading. All right? So we looked at leisure. We discussed a little bit about leisure and a little bit about informative. Yes, informative. And today we're looking at critical reading. All right? Critical reading. Now, you have your handouts in front of you, and more or less, it's like a cheat question. Yeah? So, what do you think, without looking at your handout, what do you think critical reading entails? Ali. And she perched her eyes into the handout. Yes, go ahead. What do you think about the word critical? Like what comes to your mind? Not sure. Shamar, any thoughts bumping around in your head?
Something that you must read.
Something that you must read. Yeah, critical means like we get a sense of you must do it. Yeah. What about you? Nothing? Nothing is flowing. All right. So let's go to see what critical reading is. Now, when we talk about critical reading, right, we are looking and we're saying that it's a form of language analysis. involving a deeper examination of the text, ideas, themes, and claims presented. What is this? It means that we are not just reading for pleasure. We're not just reading for information. We are engaging with the material on a deeper, more intimate level. We're moving beyond just looking at the words. We're trying to understand how everything come together, the meaning, what is the writer saying, looking for a deeper examination. All right? So when we do that, we are doing it for a different purpose. So we're not just reading for pleasure and just move on, right? We're engaging in this reading. And it says it is a process. And because it is a process, it takes what? Time. All right? And it means that we have to do what? We have to, first of all, keep an open mind, because if we're going to read something and we come with preconceived ideas or preconceived notion, and the word preconceived means coming with your own thinking, right? It means that we are going to sort of be biased in our reading, in our thinking. And when we're engaging engaging with our materials, we don't want to be biased. All right? We want to go with an open mind. We also want to read slower. Why? Because if we race through the material, will we be able to understand what we're reading? No, you have to read slower. You have to pay extra attention to what you're reading. All right? So remember, it's a what? A process. It doesn't happen by just reading one time, right? We have to engage. Then we take notes, because perhaps, for instance, our passage that we have today is sort of a long passage, right? And by the time we start reading and then we get to the bottom of the passage, at the initial stage of our reading, we may forget something. Yes? Right? Have you ever read something and then you got to the bottom and you're like, oh my goodness, what did I read in the beginning? Right? Yes? Experience? Yes. So in order to help us better that experience, we can take note. And by taking note, what we're doing is that we're training our mind. All right? And so that it's retained in our memory. And then finally, we can try to put ourselves in the audience, the target of the writer or the author in this case, right? What that means is that we try to be the persons receiving the material. So if I bring something for CSEC and I give it to you, would you understand it? No. Why? Because you have not gone through the process. You're preparing to enter second form. Yes? And because that, it means that it has to be a process. And so there are certain things that are coined for your level, for grade 8. And if I don't bring that for your level, then you're going to be lost. And we all will be like Columbus coming to the West Indies. And nobody wants to be like Columbus coming to the West Indies, lost, right? So we have to put ourselves, and when we do that, we're able to see whether the writer or the author was able to reach the target group, whether he was able to use simple language in your cases, right? Because we have to use simple language so that you can understand. And as you go up, of course, your vocabulary will expand, and then we will meet bigger words, yes? But as it is now, we're utilizing simple language. Okay? Good. So why is critical reading important, and what are the benefits of critical reading? Now, why do you think that this is important? Anyone?
Yes, because when you read more, you're going to be able to understand.
Yes. The more you read, you're able to understand. Now, I remember we were talking about when some time ago we did verbs, and we talked about thinking and it being a mental action, and our brains are working. So the first says what? Mental development, exercising our brains. So that is the first benefit of critical reading. And if we don't exercise our brain, could it get better? right? It's like a muscle. If we don't exercise and we just decide to sit and eat whatever, what happens to us? We get what?
Lazy.
Fat and lazy and all of these things that we don't necessarily like, right? But when we read, we are developing mentally, and that is very, very important, right? That's the reason we're going to school to begin with, yes? Because we want to develop mentally. We want to exercise our brains, yeah? And then, as Taisha. So, as Taisha would have stated, to have a better understanding. And when we read critically, we have a better understanding of the text, as against if we just read for pleasure. When we engage with the material on a more personal level, we understand the points that the author is trying to make or is making in the piece of writing. Yes? And then critical thinking improves because it is a process. All right? Because critical reading is a process, it helps us to think more critically because we have to make connections, right? We connect what we're reading to previous knowledge, past experiences, and this is a very vital skill for English language, critical thinking, all right? And then when we interact with our materials on a more personal level, we do what? We remember more of what we would have read, as against just reading it for one time and then moving on. Would you remember that? No. But if you engage with it on a more personal level, you will remember what you would have read, yes? And then finally, better logical and problem-solving skill. Now, this is something that is lacking in the world. Have you ever met someone who can't express themselves? Who can't figure out what to do, how to do it, or anything? Right? And sometimes they're adults too, yes? Who can't? Because we have not learned how to do what? To logically, to become better logical and problem-solving skill. When we read and we engage, and we're going to come to see how we do critical thinking, critical reading. When we engage with a material personally, we're able to see why the writer said this, and why the writer did this, and why the writer, and perhaps we give our opinion that perhaps he could have done it this way, or perhaps she could have done it this way, or she could have said this way, and give her justification why. And what we're doing is that we're training our mind. We're seeing connection, we're doing, and we're working the problem out. All right? And basically, that's what we want to do. So education, so English is not just for the classroom, right? There are certain life skills that we have to develop in our language classroom so that when we get out into the world of work, we're able to apply those skills. All right? Good. So let's look at what we can do to look at step-by-step critical reading tutorial. So the first thing says to do what? Read normally. What does this mean? It means that the first time we're going to read, we're just going to go through the material. Yes? We're going through the material to get a basic idea of what the writer is saying, what the author is presenting. All right? And then 2, we want to read it again. And this time, we're paying more attention. We're reading it more carefully. We want to make sure that we read each sentence. We want to understand what the writer is saying. We want to look for what is the main idea, what is the main concept, what is the paragraph about, what is the passage about, right? And sometimes, in order for us to do that, we have to read and read again. And nothing is wrong with that, because critical reading does not happen with one reading of the piece. All right? It's something that we have to do what? Engage on a personal level. All right? And then we want to understand every word. Understand every word. We want to make sure that if they're from unfamiliar words, because we're going to meet unfamiliar words. And what do we do when we get to unfamiliar words?
Don't understand.
Research it.
Yes, miss.
We research it. Some people just jump over it. Have you ever seen a situation where persons are reading and they see unfamiliar word and they just glide over it and they move on? No, we don't do that in critical reading. We want to go get a dictionary if we need to, right? And understand what the word is, okay? And the same thing for analyzing every word. We want to make sure we understand thoroughly everything that is happening here, and understanding words and the context in which they're used help us to have a better understanding of the overall meaning of what the author is saying, right? And then we have a big one. This one says practice metacognition. Have you ever seen that word before?
No, miss.
No, that's a big word, yes?
Yes,
And we're adding that word today to our vocabulary, yes? And metacognition is simply being aware of and understanding our thoughts. So when we say practice metacognition, in this case, we're saying that we as readers, we are conscious of our thought, our understanding of what the writer is saying, or the writer's thought or thinking, right? So that we can do what? So that we can challenge the ideas or concepts. And then when we challenge those, we can decide whether we are going to accept them or we're going to disregard them based on our understanding, right? And then we can say what? We can decide whether we can think about, all right, so perhaps the writer could have said this. Is there any other way that he or she could have presented this idea? So you see what we're doing when we talk about critical reading?
Yes,
we are doing a lot of what? Mental work, right? We're doing a lot of mental work. And after we have gone through that entire process, we can now draw a conclusion, right? And here, when we talk about drawing a conclusion, we are talking about ensuring that all our information, after we have gone through all of the information, we are now deciding whether we enjoy the piece or we didn't like the piece, or there are some aspects of it that I didn't enjoy or I didn't like because of for whatever reason, right?
Yes,
But do you see that this is a whole different thing than just reading for pleasure or reading for information, right? This is like a deeper sort of reading. Yes?
Yes.
And it's important because it helps us to become better thinkers. And when we do that, when we engage with our text, we become better speakers and better writers. And that is the ultimate goal for the language class. Making sense?
Yes, yes.
All right. So let's look at our handout and look at the piece of work that we want to study. So we're going to run this up for those looking, and we may not be able to complete all of the activity today because we're running out of some time, but let's see how much we can get through. So the caption is a time capsule from 1883. Anybody wants to read, or should I read?
Let's see, you can read.
I can read. So you'll just throw me under the bus. All right. Imagine you found a mysterious bottle. So one of the things that we're going to do is that we're going to go through this. But remember, I said that critical reading is what? A process. All right? And I have attached some questions to sort of help you and guide you in your process of thinking. Reading, sorry. All right? So we're going to go through it. And then for homework, we're going to apply or try to apply critical reading to this passage. It means that we have to do what? We have to get a notepad. We have to get some highlighters. There are certain things that we have to get in order to do critical reading. All right?
Yes.
So that we can answer the questions accurately. All right? Good. Imagine you found a mysterious bottle. On the outside is a label that reads the year 1883. What's inside? An object that contains a sampling of items collected from a time period, is called a time capsule. Time capsules are often found in the walls of old buildings, buried underground, or washed ashore. As long as the maker of the time capsule was careful in choosing a suitable container that kept out moisture, air, and most light, the items inside will be preserved enough to get a glimpse of what life and times were like long ago. Opening a time capsule can be a very exciting thing because it's full of surprises. So, what might be in a time capsule from the 1883? A newspaper from 1883 might include articles about the important leaders and events of the time. Chester B. Arthur was the 21st President of the United States. Queen Victoria was the Queen of England. Buffalo Bill's first Wild Western show opened in Omaha, Nebraska, and the Metropolitan Opera House opened for the first time in New York. Sadly, Sojourner Truth, a famous abolition and author, died at the age of 96 that year. The very last known quagga, a subspecies of zebra, died in a zoo in Amsterdam in 1883 and became extinct. But perhaps the most tragic headline that might be in a newspaper from 1883 would read something like this: Indonesian volcano erupts, killing more than 40,000 people. People all over the world mourn this terrible tragedy when Krakatoa erupted. What else might be in a time capsule? Perhaps money. In 1883, a coin called the Liberty head nickel was common, as was the Morgan silver dollar. There was also nickel with no words printed on it to indicate its worth. This coin is known as the cent nickel. A postage stamp from this year would show its price on the front, 2 cents. All of these would be in a time capsule from 1883, as could several newly invented items, such as toilet paper, invented in 1880, blue jeans, 1873, light bulb, 1879, and an electric iron, 1882. The iron probably wouldn't have been put in the capsule, though. It weighed over 15 pounds. There might be photographs included in the time capsule, but only a few, since cameras were rare and photos were so expensive at the time. Man-made plastic has been invented about 20 years earlier, so there might even be a few small plastic items included. Surprised? You might be more surprised to know what items could not have been in the time capsule. These had not yet been invented in the year 1883, but were invented shortly after. Coca-Cola, 1886, cotton candy, 1897, ballpoint pens, 1888, zippers, 1893, radios, 1893, roller coasters, 1898, and remote controls, 1898. All of these, however, could be in a time capsule from the year 1900. Well, not the roller coaster. It wouldn't fit. But this just goes to show how very much things and the way that people live can change in just a few years. Time capsules have been found all over the world. Perhaps someday you might even be lucky enough to find one yourself. In the meantime, how about putting together a time capsule of your own to leave for a future generation to enjoy? Ask each member of your family to add 1 or 2 things that show what life was like in today's time period. Be sure to choose a good container that will keep your items safe and sound for years to come. Label your container with the year and consider adding a note inside to tell a little bit about yourself and your life. Who knows? Maybe hundreds of years in the future, someone will delight in opening your time capsule. All right, so did you enjoy it?
Yes, yes.
It's interesting, right? We learned a lot of things and we realized that we are living in a totally different era. Imagine in an era where an iron is how many pounds?
15.
15 pounds? Can you imagine using a 15-pound iron? No? Okay. So I assume that perhaps they needed more than one person to carry this iron around. So, but there are certain things that we didn't necessarily get to interact with. Can you tell me what you read what you heard at the beginning of the passage of the word of the reading? Sorry. Yeah.
They found a time capsule from 1833 and wanted to know what was inside.
Okay, so there is mention. But if we are to tell somebody what we would have read, we can't necessarily do that after the first reading. So what does it mean? It means that we have to now go back to this reading, all right? And we have to go, and we're doing so with what? We're going to make sure we get a pen. We want to make sure we get a highlighter. We want to make sure we get a notepad. And there's some questions that will help to guide our, turn the page. There's some questions that will help us to have a better understanding of the passage that we would have just read. The first question says, which is not the writer's purpose in this passage? Now, when we look at that, we can't necessarily answer the question right away. Well, some of us may be able to, right? But in order for us to accurately answer that, it means that we would have to do what? Go back to the passage, all right? And this time we're going back, searching for evidence. We're engaging with the reading on a personal level, all right? The next question says, what is a time capsule and what is its purpose? And it's mentioned right in the reading, all right? Those are things that we saw in the reading. Why does the author give an example of a time capsule from 1883? How effective is this example? So we now have to go to look for an example. And then we want to look at, say, why is it effective? We got to look at the example that they would have given us and say why we think that it's effective. And if it's not, why it is not effective. All right? And then the next question says, complete the sentences. People find time capsules in the walls of old building, buried underground, or, can you remember what else? Yes.
Washed up on the shore.
Washed ashore, yes. The author refers to the Indonesian volcanic eruption as a very something incident. See, we have to do what? We have to go back to the passage to engage with the passage, all right? Then question 5 says, if you had to put together a time capsule of your own today to leave for your future generation, what will it contain and why? And I especially love the final question because I really love to hear. So let's try to attempt that question, because that question is more like challenging us and looking at what we would have read and what we think should be in our time capsule. And we got 2 minutes, and let's hear from Shamar. What would you put in your time capsule?
From generation, probably like this video games,
Video games,
like controllers on the disc, like for like, cause most things are not technology.
Yes, we're in a technological era. So, like for instance, when we were growing up, we had things like Walkman. Have you ever seen a Walkman? Have you ever seen an MP3? No?
I think I heard of it.
But those are things that I would put in my time capsule, because those are things that were popular in my generation, and we don't have such a big generational gap in terms of age. We're living in the same era, but time has changed significantly. Alia, quickly, what's one thing that you would put in your time capsule?
Probably a magazine.
Magazine from where? Any particular magazine or just a magazine?
Magazine.
Any magazine. What about you?
Yes, some pictures.
Pictures? And
How the place and look back in the days.
in back like today? Yeah, because we notice that Guyana is developing at a rapid pace. Like if you were, can you remember what Region 3 looked like about 5 years ago?
Never went to Region 3.
Region Street.
Region Street. Oh, I thought you said Region 3.
So can you remember what it looked like 5 years ago? But now we know that there are stores going up all over. All right, so times are changing. So today we looked at critical reading. We said that it is important for us to understand. It is important for us to engage with our materials, because when we engage on a personal level, we're able to do so many things, right? We're able to learn so many things. We are developing, we're learning to, we have to work our brains, right? We have to, and because we are engaging with the material, there are so many benefits for us. We're able to understand the material better. We're able to remember more what we would have read. We're able to do so many other things, and in essence, we are able to build our language skills. All right? Because when we read, we transcend ourselves to another world. All right? Did you know about time capsule? The concept of time capsule?
Yes, miss.
Yeah?
Yes.
Before reading today?
Yes, miss.
Yes,
Yes? So it's something that we have not done it, but it's something that we are familiar with. And now we can go try it out. And perhaps who knows, the next generation will thank us for being so nice to them and leaving things of our generation. All right? So critical reading is important. It's not just picking up something and just saying, all right, well, I'm just going to read this one time and that is it. Critical reading is engaging with our material on a personal level, and we must do that so that we can better ourselves, so we can have a better understanding of the things that we're engaging with, especially our schoolwork. All right? And that is all the time we have for today. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. Please stay tuned. Math is coming up, and I will see you next week.
Good afternoon again, students, and welcome to Critical Mathematics. And we would like to welcome Taisha for the first time with us, and we hope that you will follow along as we go. So, presently we are doing algebra, and from the previous class we were looking at the algebraic terms. So I would like Aliyah to, in terms of the terms for the algebra, please give me one of the terms.
The power.
The power. And I would like you now to come and put an example and indicate where the power is. You can write a little bigger, right? Okay then. All right. So, could you say what is this? This is M, letter M. Algebra, we're dealing with the alphabet and numbers. And we have a power where you have the, I would normally say the floating 2 or a floating number above the letter, sideways above the letter. So, yes, that's one of the terms that we have, power. Shamar.
Yes, miss.
Could you please give me another term?
Variable.
Variable. Thank you very much. Please come. And you will put an example of a variable an example that would indicate what a variable would be. Take off the cover.
Right variable.
All right, so Shamar, just wait right there. Aliyah, do you agree?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Pardon me?
Yes.
That this is a variable? Okay, you weren't at the last class, but you would have gotten some information from the last class because you are a part of the class, just that you were absent. So, were you able to go through the work to know if this is a variable or not? Is this a variable? No, it isn't. What is a variable?
Miss a letter.
The letter. What about that?
I mix it up with what do you call it?
Anybody want to help? What he mixed it up with?
Constant.
Speak louder.
It's the constant.
The constant? Well, yes, it could be the constant. Right, Aliyah? So, the variable would be the letter. Okay, Shamar? Thank you very much. So, we have the variable, we have a power. Okay, could you give me one? Come and give me one. And which one? Take off the cover.
Miss, you could do the same one.
Anything.
It's Y.
And the Y is?
A variable.
The variable. Okay, let's go to another one. Not the variable. Can't remember.
Miss 7.
7, and 7 would be?
A constant.
And 7 would be a constant. Do you agree the 7 would be the constant? All right, thank you very much. And it showed that you did do some homework also. So we have the variable, which is the letters. We have the constants, which would be the number standing alone. We have the power, which we would say the floating number above the letter. And there is something else we have.
Pardon me, we use variable, the constant, the power.
And another C.
Coefficient.
Coefficient. So the coefficient is which one? Which one is the coefficient?
Miss 4.
The 4 is the coefficient. Why is the 4 the coefficient? Pardon me?
The coefficient is a number in front of the letter.
Okay, the coefficient is the number that stands with the letter in front of the letter. And as I said to the class before, if the number is also behind the letter, directly behind the letter, it is still a coefficient. Some persons just write the letter before the number. It means the same thing, right? So we have those terms. So quickly, each person will pick one question off of my screen. Okay. So, the first question was completed for you. Yes, Aliyah?
Never mind now.
Okay, the first question, the expression, where we have the terms together. Then we have the term, they identify the terms. The first one we have 4x and 12, because 4x's would be different from the number 12. So it's two different terms. We have the coefficient, which is the number in front of the letter. We have the variable, or the variables, where we have the letter representing, and we have the constant, or constants, where the number is standing by itself. So, pick one quickly. Tell me which one you're going to do it with.
Number one.
Number 1 for Akila. For Aliyah.
Number 3.
Number 3 for Shamar.
Yes, number 4.
Number 4 for Taisha. Okay. Write it quickly so that you can give me your answer in a few seconds, starting from Aliyah. You're going to be coming and put your answer on the board because you are teaching with me today. You are working with me today. If you think you're finished, when you're finished, you will just come and put the answers for me. You're doing number 1, Aliyah?
Yes, miss.
Okay, ready? You can come. You have the term, you have the coefficient, you have the variable, and you have the constant. Good.
I don't have an constant.
Well, put a dash. All right. Everyone, please look at Aliyah's answer. And would you agree with all our answers? Do you agree with her terms?
Yes, miss.
Written like this?
The term.
Yes. Where the term written like this. How many terms this expression has?
2.
2. So it has 2 terms. So we don't need a sign between them. Right? Please remember that. Good. Coefficient. Agree with the coefficient 3? I'm listening. Do you agree that the coefficient is 3? Don't just shake your head. Answer yes or no. Not sure. You're not sure if your coefficient is 3. Why are you shaking your head?
I'm not
Is it
sure.
You're not sure. What did we say this coefficient just now?
Coefficient is the number. The number standing
Standing
with the letter.
in front of the letter or with the letter. Is any number standing with the letter here?
And with A?
Anywhere. Is any number standing with the letter?
Yes, miss.
So we have a 3. Agree? So would that be the coefficient?
Yes, miss.
Good. So why were you uncertain just now? You must be positive about what you're thinking, right? However, there is a coefficient in A, with A. It's invisible. Pardon?
It's 1.
Exactly. It's 1. It's not shown, but yes, there is a coefficient, but you would not have gotten that wrong. Right? Good. So what about the variable?
Yes, miss.
The variables, we have 2 letters. So these are okay, but we don't need a plus sign. And are there any constants? Any numbers standing alone?
No, miss.
No. Good. So this would be okay for her answer. Because of time, I will write on the board. Shamar, you are number
3.
3. Call your expression for me.
5
5
plus 10k.
plus 10k.
Yes, miss.
That's all?
Yes, miss.
All right. What are your terms?
5
5,
comma 10k.
10k. Everybody agree? Great. Coefficient?
My coefficient is 10.
Coefficient 10 only?
Yes, miss.
Everybody agrees? All right. Variable.
K.
K. Any other variable?
No, miss.
No. Any constant?
Yes, miss. 5.
5. So, very good, Shamar. We have 2 terms. The 5 and the 10k, they're different. You can't add them, right? We have the 10 as a coefficient, the number with the letter. We have the variable, which is the letter. In this case, we only have 1 letter. And we have a constant. 1 number is standing by itself, right? So, give me your answer, Taisha. I think you had number 4?
Yes, miss.
Number 4. Expression?
Miss
A?
B.
No, what is it? AB?
Yes, miss.
AB
Slash
minus
C.
C. That's all?
Yes, miss.
All right. Oops. Okay, so we have the terms. What are the terms?
I don't know how to solve it.
Okay, no, you're not solving it. The terms are, we have A and B, 1 term, and we have a C because they're different, right? And we have a C, so we have 2 terms. These 2 goes together because they're together as they are, they're like twins, right? And then we have the cousin. So we have the twin and we have the cousin, right? So we have the coefficient now. Do we have any coefficient? No, not seen. But the coefficient actually would be 1. Because there would be a 1 here, there would be a 1 there. Right? So we can put 1. If you don't, nothing's wrong, you're not seeing it. And actually in this case would be a negative 1.
There's only one you put.
Pardon?
Only one you put.
Okay, we want a positive 1, no problem.
No, miss, I'm just asking.
It's the value would not change anything because of the 1.
Okay.
Excuse me, miss. If it's multiplication, then the the constant would be -1.
Whatever sign is in front of the value you're using, it takes the sign. Multiplication, addition, subtraction, doesn't matter. Variable. Are there any variables? Anyone want to help her?
Yes, miss.
What are they?
A,
A,
B,
B,
and C.
and C because they're all different letters. Right? So these are the variables. And are there any constants?
No, miss.
There are no constants because we have no number standing by himself. Right? So that's just a little recap for Taisha on what we were doing with the algebraic expression, using the terms, identifying the terms, the coefficients, the variables, and the constants. Okay? So let's move on. And my screen will be up. So here, from the expression, as we would have said, mathematics, we can write mathematics in English and we can write it mathematically using signs and symbols. So in this case, we have write the letter of the expression on the right next to the words on the left that describes it. It's like matching. You know, in primary school or nursery school, they ask you to match. So basically it's matching, but instead of us drawing the lines, we will just identify which letter is correct for the answer. So we have number 1. We have something, x minus 6. Which one on your right-hand side would be correct for that answer? Yes, Aliyah.
G.
G? So we have G. We see x minus 6. Do we all agree? So we had it in the words on the left-hand side, and we have it complete mathematically on the right-hand side, right? But we are saying the same things, just writing it differently. Good. So very well. Shamar, do you want to try one?
Yes, miss. Number 2.
Number 2.
D.
60 plus y, and you are picking
D. Letter D.
D. 60 plus y. Everybody agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Agree?
Yes, miss.
Great. That's good. Taisha.
Miss number 4.
Number 4. I like that. You just didn't go to number 2. Number 3, you skipped and went somewhere else. Very well. 16 plus x.
E.
That is E. Everybody agrees? Everybody? Okay, very well. So let's go to number 9. Anyone want to answer for number 9?
Miss C.
6 times 3.
Number 9, Taisha is saying, which one, C? C. So she's saying C, which is 6x. So she's implying that 6 times x would be 6x. Anybody agree or disagree?
6.
What does time represent in mathematics?
Multiplication.
Multiplication. And remember, I said to you, when we are writing the letter and the number together, we're actually multiplying, but you don't have to put the multiplication sign. You can put it, but you don't have to, right? So it is complete like this. Good? I would normally say to students, when you're seeing this here, it's like a husband and a wife. They're multiplying, right? They're together. Good. So let's try last one, number 6. Why take away 6?
I.
Why take away 6? And I am seeing is 6 minus y. Do you agree?
I got to agree myself.
Aliyah, do you agree with his answer?
Not quite sure.
Not quite sure. So which answer would you choose?
I think it's I.
Why take away 6? So you're thinking I?
Yes, miss.
Yes.
Why take away 6? And you're thinking it's I? Everybody?
Yes.
All right. So we have y take away 6. Let's use it according to the expression. Y take away 6. What would I write? Y take away 6. Forget about what you're seeing as the answer. Y take away 6. Y minus 6. That's what it's saying to you, right? Good. The answer that you're seeing and you're giving me is 6 take away y. Are both of these the same? Huh?
No.
No. What does that mean?
It's wrong.
What does that mean?
It's wrong.
That the answer given there, it's incorrect. Agree? So not because you're seeing something that looks similar and you know it's supposed to be like this, but the answer, I'm not seeing that answer, but that answer have the 6 and it have the y and have the minus. So maybe it's this one. So you pick this answer, right? But correctly, this is incorrect. Good? So in this case, you don't choose the answer and you indicate, miss, that there are no answers there for that question. And you argue the fact, y take away 6 means y minus 6. There aren't any y minus 6. So miss, this answer is wrong. Right? So as the teacher can give an incorrect answer and expect you to write the right one. Right? Don't be fooled and don't be carried away. If you're sure that the answer is incorrect, well, you use the correct one. Good? All right. So, that was... So let's... I'm sharing my screen here. So all of that to say, from the screen, where after leading up, and because you would have understood all the other parts, it makes it easy for you now to add and subtract your terms. So we have x plus 5, and in mathematics means plus, and x plus 3. So a simple way of putting it down, we have x plus 5 and x plus 3. We're adding.
Yes. You 2, 5.
Thank you very much. We're adding now. Now we're adding the different terms, if you realize, right? The similar terms. So 5 and 3?
8.
8, very well. We have a plus sign because both of them are positive. X plus x?
X.
X plus x?
X.
If you have one apple,
X.
if you have an apple here and an apple here, what do you have?
X, that is 6.
You have, it's 2x because you'll be having 2 apples. Right?
Yeah.
So not because it's an x. You add in the x's. It's like Tom named X and Mary named X. So you have 2 of these persons, right? Okay, let's go to the other one. You call the other one for me, please, from the screen.
3x
3x
plus 4
4
and 4x
4x.
plus 9.
Well, remember, and means addition, so I'll put it there one time. 9 and 4?
13.
13, very well, plus 3x's plus 4x's?
7x.
7x's. Now, we cannot add these two terms because they are different. Agree?
Yes, miss.
We cannot add a boy or a husband and a wife to the 13 children. Why? Because this is the husband and a wife. The children are a separate entity. Right? So, are we okay with that?
Yes, miss.
So, let's look at the other two. The other two, it would state, I'm taking this off, right? It would state addition because it's an and. But there is something in it that makes it also carry subtraction inside of it. Please call the first equation.
5y
5y
minus 2
2
and 2y
2y
plus 7.
says 7. So we're adding, but it still brings in subtraction. Now remember when we started with directive numbers, 7 means we have, and 2 means we owe. And if we pay what we owe, what we have left? If we pay what we owe, what we have remaining?
5.
We have 5. Right? So it's 7 minus 2. And this is 5 plus 2 is 7y. Same two different terms. We cannot add them. Good? Let's get the other one. from the screen?
8y
8y
minus 3.
7. 7?
It's
Three.
3.
Oh, I thought someone said 7. 3.
And 5y
5y
minus
6.
6. Great. So, both of them are negatives?
Yes.
All right, we added negatives. However, both of them are negative. We owe 3 and we owe.
6.
So what that means?
We
Oh, and
we
9.
now own.
We owe 9. So we owe 9. Right? Although we add in there, we're actually adding up how much we owe. We owe 6 plus we owe 9. We owe 3 plus we owe 6. So we owe 9. And what is happening? We're adding here. So 8 plus 5 is?
13.
Sure?
8.
Sure?
Yes, miss.
13. So we cannot take 9 away from 13. Why? Because they're two different terms, right? So we just did our addition and subtraction of algebraic terms. Let me give you one last one, show you a different way. We okay with this?
Yes, miss.
You will get your worksheets to complete. So we have 7x plus 4y minus 3x plus 2y. Remember we spoke about grouping the terms also? So what terms would we group?
7x and 3x.
7x and negative 3x. So let's group it. 7x minus 3x. Then what we have remaining?
Positive.
Positive 4y
And positive.
plus 2y. So could we minus these two?
Yes. Miss.
7 minus 3?
4.
4. You realize I didn't do it like when we were doing it in primary school? Because we're going up higher every time. Now what we have here?
4 and 2, 6.
4 plus 2 is?
6.
6. Could we add 4x plus 6y?
No.
No, because they are different terms. So our answer remains as this expression. Are we good there?
Yes, miss.
Good. So in a few minutes, we recapped our terms, the coefficient, the variable, the power, the constants. We identify our terms, and we did addition and subtraction of these algebraic terms. Two different ways. One, when we set it down like when we were in primary school, you know, to make it easy, we see them top and bottom. And the other one, we set it down because we are now moving up to a higher level. Good? So instead of doing that, we can just group them in one line and we work out what we can work out. Are we good?
Yes, miss.
We good for the afternoon?
Yes.
We good for the addition and subtraction of algebraic terms?
Yes, miss.
What you think will be going on to next?
Multiplication.
Multiplication and division, because they're all the basic operation and we try to do it in steps so that we can follow along. Right? So thank you very much. You will be getting your extra work to do for your practice so that when you return at the next class for the 4th week of your session, you will be going on to a higher level. Right? So do have a blessed afternoon. I pray and I hope that you did understand what was done, and be blessed. Later.